Tom Hanks, arguably the greatest actor of his generation. Tom goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "Ariana, want to tell him?" And she looks at him and she goes, "You're dead."
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Scooter Braun. See what we did there?
I see that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
This is Howie Mandel Does Stuff. I'm Howie Mandel, and my daughter, Jacqueline Schultz, who is my co-host and somebody that you know, our guest, Scooter Braun, is here, and Jacqueline Schultz has a sore throat, so she's not allowed anywhere near me. So she's on, I don't know what she's on, but she's hooded and at home, right?
Hold on.
With a
Yes.
horrible connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. You have a sore throat and static. That's really,
I know.
yeah, you have bad Wi-Fi.
I'm gonna be on mute. I'm gonna be on mute
Go
most
on
of
mute.
the time. So
Go
you
on
don't have
mute.
to,
No,
okay.
I
mean,
want you.
yeah.
I want delayed conversation. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question.
Do you have a question for my
No,
dad?
I just want to say, how are you? You feeling okay?
I'm okay. I'm sick, but I came on just to say hi to you because I miss you.
Well, I miss you too, but now you have to stay because that wasn't
Oh.
delayed. The internet just started to work.
Oh, okay. So stay. Hang on.
I'm gonna stay, but I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, mute yourself, but when you want to talk, you can speak up. I'm sure you have
raise my
questions
hand.
and information. I actually met Scooter through you and your husband, right? The first
Yeah.
time I met
Yes.
was through Alex and that. But I was aware of you, Scooter, before that, like the world is aware, and I'm fascinated by you. And
Okay.
have been. No, because, well, first of all, so you're a young guy going to school in Atlanta, the
Yeah.
son of two dentists. You have
Yeah.
very nice teeth.
Thank you.
Yeah. Was that forced upon you, or did you have a...
I think it was forced upon me a little bit. Yeah, they got it. I'm like an advertisement.
Yeah, so when you grow up with dentists
Yeah.
and you lose a tooth, did you believe in the tooth fairy, or did they give you...
No, I think I believed in the tooth fairy a little bit, and then obviously I would stay up and catch them so that I didn't.
Right.
But
But when
then,
the tooth fairy is an orthodontist and a dentist...
I got really upset when my mom tried to give like toothbrushes along with Halloween candy. Like that wasn't okay.
He needs to be closer to the
Scooter,
mic.
could you get the mic about 6 inches closer, please?
Sure. I said
That's
I
great,
got a little
thanks.
upset with my mom when she tried to give away toothbrushes with like Halloween candy.
Yeah, what kid doesn't love floss?
But I did like going to her office and that little spray gun where you get the air and the water. Me and my
Yeah.
brother would have little fights with that.
With dental equipment.
With dental equipment when she wasn't looking.
Wow. So now you grow up in kind of a normal household. You're going to college in Atlanta. How do you meet Jermaine Dupri? Wasn't that your entree into this business?
My entree first, I was throwing parties to make money. I didn't like being broke. So actually first I sold fake IDs.
Wait, that's great.
Yeah, my buddy made really good New York fake IDs, and I thought he had a horrible business plan on how to distribute them, and he would get caught.
What were you in college for?
I was in college to play D3 basketball, and I wanted to be a business and philosophy major.
Were you pursuing basketball at all?
Yeah, I went there to play college basketball.
But with any hopes of...
No, I knew that the 5'11" Jewish genetics had served me well to get to that point, but it was going to end there.
Okay.
And I don't think I had
That's
any
kinda
intention of even playing 4 years because I kind of really wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was trying to find any reason to leave school.
So what is throwing a party? Like, what? I don't understand. Like, how's that money?
So what happened was I was selling the fake IDs to my buddy. He broke my rule on how we get caught, so I left. He got in a little trouble later on.
What was your rule?
My rule was we never sell on our own campus. We never keep in touch with the people we sell to. There used to be something called AirTran. That was an airline out of Atlanta.
Okay.
And back then, this is pre 9/11. You would be able to, with the college ID, for $49, you could fly anywhere in the country. AirTran flew, and they basically flew everywhere that Delta flew, so the whole country. So my idea was we should fly into state schools all around the country on a weekend and sell as many fake IDs as we could at that state school under fake names, and then leave. And never be seen again, and make thousands of dollars. We would give splits to the kids on those campuses. We'd walk in with a gray fabric and a digital camera and say to a kid, "Hey, we're going to sell them for $100. We'll keep 80. You keep 20. Bring us the pictures and the names and the money."
How did they know you were coming?
They didn't know. We would show up and find a couple kids on campus and be like, "You work. You guys need fake IDs. We'll be at this hotel. Boom, boom, boom. Get the hell out." We're in and out really quick. And my one buddy thought a couple girls were cute and decided to keep in touch, and that broke the rule. And after 2 months of doing this, I was done. And then I walked by a nightclub on a Thursday night in Atlanta, Georgia, in Buckhead, and it was called Chaos at the time. And there was a guy named BA at the door, and I said, "Hey, if I brought some people here next week, you don't seem to have anyone inside. Would you give me some money?" And he was like, "How many people could you bring?" And I said, "Well, how many people does it hold?" He's like, 800. And I was like, "Yeah, I can bring 800. And he was like, "You can bring 800 people here." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Then they'll pay." And I said, "Yo, what do they pay? $10?" And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And the following week, I went and made Kinko's flyers. I had a high school sweetheart, so I was friends with all the girls. I wasn't a threat. I could dance a little bit. I was fun. And I had girls who were friends of mine pass out these flyers, Kryptonite Entertainment, because I was a Superman fan. And 800 people came. And we charged $10 a head, and the guy gave me $1 per person. So I got $800 legally. The most money I'd ever made was $1,500 from a summer job coaching basketball, and other than selling fake IDs. And I was like, "Oh, I'm really good at this. I should do this." And at that party, the very first party, there was an actor who approached me named Jason Weaver. And I recognized him because he played young Michael Jackson on this VH1 movie they played every year called The Jacksons. And he said, "Do you want to see how the other half lives?" And I said, "What do you mean?" Because he was shocked that this party that was filled with predominantly white kids from Emory University, even though it was multicultural, it was predominantly white. And he was shocked that they were playing hip hop music and rock and roll. Because I was having my friend DJ. I picked the DJ. And at time, Atlanta,
Were
Georgia.
you already a fan of hip hop? And
Yeah, I grew up completely loving hip hop, my whole life. And but I loved all types of music. But I was a big Biggie fan because I was from the East Coast. And what ended up happening was he said this to me, and I didn't really understand what he was saying because Atlanta at that time was very segregated as far as the partying scene.
Right.
It was like white clubs would only play techno music and black clubs would play hip hop, and you never mixed. And it was a sad, and I didn't grow up like that. I actually grew up in a multicultural house, which your daughter knows because she's friends with my brother.
right.
And he brought me to a place on Tuesday night called the Velvet Room. There was an Ethiopian immigrant named Alex Gideon, who now today is the #1 club owner in Atlanta, Georgia. Back then, he was a former parking lot attendant who started passing out flyers, who then, when I met him, was the biggest promoter in the city for throwing parties. And there was all these people lined up, and rappers that I recognized and athletes that I recognized, and they were all paying $100 a head to go into this party. And I was completely shocked. And he was so fascinated that someone who looked like me was there and comfortable that he was like letting me in for free. And I used to basically go on Thursday nights and make money throwing my parties. And Tuesday, I would spend everything I had, faking it till I make it, to meet the rappers and the athletes. And Alex was training me on what I deserved. He goes, "No more $1 head. These clubs, they need you. They have to pay you the whole door. So instead of $800, you're owed $8,000. And he showed me how to do it. And he trained me and made me a party promoter.
So you're a party promoter, and you are in Atlanta. You're still in college?
I'm still in college. I'm 19. I'm throwing parties for 21 and up sometimes. And I'm 19. And I'm doing all these different parties. And
making like $8,000 a night.
5, 8 grand here and there. And then all these, guys I'm meeting on Tuesday night, now they're coming to my party. Like I had this nickname, Puff, White Puff. And Puff likes to remind me now.
You were White Puff?
It was because I was throwing these parties, and I had this purple Mercedes Benz that I bought on eBay for cash that I used to drive over to that party. And when I tell you I was broke every Wednesday morning, I was broke. Thursday I'd make the money again. Tuesday I'd go broke again.
Buying
bottles at these clubs and like just trying to impress people to meet them so I can get them to my parties and build, a business. And I started to do very well. And then I got asked to throw parties for this up-and-coming rapper named Ludacris. And I became close with this guy, Shaka Zulu. And there was a guy named Shakir Stewart who became my mentor in kind of the music business and thought I had more potential. And then one day, Jermaine Dupri came with Janet Jackson, who was dating at the time, to one of my parties. And he said, "I want to talk to you." And he invited me to something he was doing. And he said, "You have more potential than parties." And I was just turning 20. I became the marketing manager at Sosodef, later the vice president, and I dropped out of college.
Of his label.
Yeah, and I dropped out of college, and I did that full time while throwing parties.
Because he saw you throwing parties and he attended parties, he thought that you had the acumen to have anything to do with the record business?
Well, if you actually look at the history, a lot of guys started off the way he found me. I mean, Leor Cohen was a concert promoter, and I guess through parties as well. And Russell Simmons, and was a party promoter, and ended up doing stuff for his brother with Run DMC, and all these guys. A lot of people started that way. So Jermaine really, at the time, looked up to Russell Simmons and what was built with Def Jam, and he used to say, "You're going to be my Lior."
Really?
Because Russell and Lior teamed up, with the party promotion thing, and he used to kind of reference that a lot.
So you go and you start working for his record label, and are you in promotions? Are you in?
No, I'm marketing.
Marketing,
Yeah,
which is what you continue to do.
Yeah, and I wanted to do A&R also, of like finding records and finding artists, which I started to do a little bit for him, but I was his marketing guy.
What's the first artist that you found for him? His first artist was like Crisscross, right? Or
his first artist, Crisscross, everything. I didn't find an artist for him, but he let me work on the Anthony Hamilton project, which a lot of people were doubting, and I got very close with Anthony and his manager Eli, and that was the first platinum plaque that I ever received of a project I was a part of, and was truly grateful. Like it's actually an amazing album. You should go listen to it. Charlene.
I will listen to it. So now you're having success.
Charlene's the single. You should go listen to it. That's like my favorite song.
I will. Do you want me to go now and then come back in a couple of minutes?
You can stay.
Thank you. So now, what are your parents thinking at this time? Are they aware that you're maybe focusing more on?
They're hearing the stories. They're starting to get concerned. I didn't tell them I dropped out for a full semester.
Wait, you were out of school just doing this, promoting, and they think you're...
Promoting and doing this with Jermaine, and they think I'm still in school. And then one day my mom called me and she's like, whenever we call you, you're not at the campus, you're not in class, you're doing this stuff. Are you in school? And that was a tough conversation.
And you had to tell them no?
I told them the truth. I said I actually haven't been in school for 6 months.
But look on my blue Bentley or whatever it is.
Well, at that point, I was kind of like, I didn't really have much to show for. I had a little show for my age, definitely. Like I got an apartment, I did different things, but like, I'll never forget. My mom was like, just promise me if it doesn't work out, you'll go back. My dad really believed in me. He's like, look, like I wish you did it differently, but like, you're going for it, and he was supportive. The reason I dropped, I wanted to stay in school.
You did?
Yeah, I would have loved to have finished school. Like I talked to my brother about his experience, and my other brothers and my sister and friends, and even I stayed in Atlanta. So my friends, I was there. I was hanging out with them all the time. I just wasn't going to class. And I kind of was bummed that I never ever had that opportunity to get a degree from Emory. But what ended up happening was my first semester I did well. My second semester, because I started throwing these parties and I was working all the time, Emory didn't offer night school. They didn't offer internet classes at the time. So my GPA dropped dramatically, and I got brought into one of the deans who talks to kids when they're like trying to find out if there's a drug problem or if there's abuse, or like why did you go from 3 point something to like the dumps.
Right.
And I went in and I explained to this guy, actually I control all the parties on this campus, and like I'm doing all this stuff, and every Thursday night the whole campus goes to an event that I tell me and my people put together, and I'm explaining it all, and he tells me the story of Robert Woodruff, the founder of Coca-Cola and the largest endowment at Emory University. And I'm geeked. I'm so excited. I'm like,
what is that story?
Just that he was this entrepreneur who started Coca-Cola and built it from nothing, and now it's the largest endowment. And the Woodruff Center is the biggest building on the campus, and the largest endowment to the university is from Coca-Cola. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is an entrepreneurial story. This guy gets me. He's going to help me. He's going to get me into Goizueta Business School here at Emory, and like get me with the right dean. And he looks at me in the end, and I'm so excited. And he says, so the chances of you being like Robert Woodruff are 1 in a billion. And he says, but if you have a degree from Emory University and then you go after these pursuits, you have a much better chance of succeeding. So are we going to get this back on track? And instantly I knew, and I said, absolutely. And he goes, all right, are we going to get you back in class? And I said, actually, I'm going to withdraw.
You told him right there.
Right there.
I believe that, listen, I'm a guy who doesn't have a GED, but I think college for the most part is bullshit unless there is, technology that you need to learn. If you're going to be a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer and you need to learn law, but just business acumen is probably a natural, innate.
I think college is great if you're trying to learn certain skills and you're playing a certain role within a certain business. I think certain entrepreneurs don't need college, but I also think college is more valuable for what goes on from a social perspective than even necessarily what goes on in class, because when we're coming out of high school, we're such kids, and a lot of us live with our parents up until that point. And then when you go to college, it's your first opportunity to grow up and be,
Independent.
independent and an adult, and you're not necessarily ready for the real world. And that kind of college environment of a community allows you to not be so alone in this big world. And that's what I regret when I look back and I see my siblings' experience, my friends' experience. I'm like, man, I missed out on so much because I went to work so early.
What do your siblings do? I know one of your brothers.
Sam works at Spotify.
Right.
Liza's a dermatologist, so she needed college.
Right.
Cornelio works within the State Department with his wife and kind of travels around the world. He's been to different embassies. And my brother Adam was the founder of Pencil of Promise, and now he was at WeWork for a little while, and now he started a new business that has to do with the environment, carbon footprint.
Fantastic. So everybody's kind of found their path. So your parents did something right. So now you're working with Jermaine, and on your own, are you also that has nothing to do with the label? You're looking at YouTube and things like. You're just aware of social media. Is that
the Facebook.com launched at Emory as one of its first 8 schools, and
really?
I wanted to use it to promote my parties without having to hire this kid each week to hack into the school emails.
Wait, you were hiring somebody to
I was hiring a kid who basically would blast, and each time I got kicked out of the server for blasting my party emails, he would go back in and like make the lists again and get my blast out again. So
Who's this kid today?
I don't know. I have no idea where he is. And but when the Facebook came, I said, "Oh, this is an opportunity to like reach kids directly without needing the EDU address."
Right.
And I actually contacted Mark Zuckerberg, who is right there on the contact page. He put me in touch with Eduardo Saverin to invest, and I tried to invest to buy 10% of Facebook at $1 million valuation. And me and Eduardo went back for like 2 months going back and forth in this conversation. And I got an email at my SoSoDef address, I believe, that said, "Hey, it's been great talking to you. If you're ever in Boston, let me know. Mark doesn't feel comfortable letting in any investment at this time. We're going to launch 32 more schools in 2 weeks. Sorry." And the truth is, I could have like flown up to Boston and like worked it and tried to like get in there. And like, I never met these guys in person. It had only been emails. But my high school sweetheart and I had broken up, and she was going to BC, and I didn't want to go to Boston.
Just to stay away from her.
I was just like, I was heartbroken and stuff like that. So, but that being said, when Facebook a year later started to take off, and Peter Thiel put money in and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, I could have made $1 million. Like, I was freaking out in my head. It made me start looking at technology differently, looking at platforms differently. So whether it be investing or whether it be watching how YouTube was being used, I had all these ideas about this social media phenomenon that was coming, which led me to what I ended up doing next.
Did you ever invest in Facebook?
No.
No.
I mean, at the IPO.
Wow.
I did, because out of like pure needing to be a part of it when it IPO'd, I put money in, and I'm very happy I did, because
you've done well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's grown. It's
Have you ever bumped into Mark and say you turned me down?
I emailed them, but I don't know if I had that conversation. I had it with Eduardo.
Oh, you did?
So I was in Singapore on tour years later with a client, and he was in the same party we were at. And I introduced myself, and he kind of looked at me like my name, and I told him the story, and he told me, he goes, "Look, between you and I, you had no shot of getting in."
Oh, so you didn't really miss
Well,
out.
he told me that at that point, him and Mark had started to fall out. And because I was referred to him, I had no shot of getting in at that point. Like, it wasn't on the radar at that point. They were dealing with other things. So
now you're looking at social media and YouTube. When is you started? Is the first artist that you kind of know? Is it Justin?
No, it was Ash. When I did my own thing, I had an artist named Kato. I had these artists called the Bama Boys. I had this group called OD, and I kept trying to like find acts that I thought everybody else wanted, and it wasn't working. Like, I would, I got Kato on MTV Spring Break. I got like this person on this thing with BET. I got this person on the mix show at Hot 97, but it just wasn't connecting. And there was a program director, guy who chooses what plays on the radio,
right,
at Hot 97 in Atlanta, and his name was Jerry Smokin' B. And I don't think Jerry Smokin' B gets the credit he deserves for the entire Southern movement of hip hop.
Really?
I think he, in my opinion, is one of the most pivotal person in the rise of Southern hip hop.
Is he still in radio?
I don't know where he is now, but at that time he was running Hot 97. The reason I say that is Shaka had his job before. Ludacris had a show called Chris Lova Lova in the morning.
Right.
He was the morning show host.
Ludacris was a radio host?
He was a radio host, biggest radio show in Atlanta at the time.
Did not
And
know
it was Chris Lova Lova and Poon Daddy. That was the show. And that was before my time. So they left to become Ludacris, and Shaka left to become his manager. Jerry Smokin' B became this radio program director of Hot 97. And every time he tried to get people for his radio shows, which is really important to these radio stations, it was all the New York and LA rap. And they just wouldn't want to come, or they wanted too much money. So he was like, there's no way we can survive unless we make our own stars.
Right.
So he went off of what national promotion was doing. He went off of what all the research was saying, and he started playing local rappers. So the rise of Ludacris, the rise of T.I., the rise, Outkast was already out there, but Outkast became gigantic, and, more one after another, to the point where in the early 2000s, when I was in the Atlanta scene, you would travel to LA and New York, and every single nightclub, all they played was Southern hip hop. Like, it was the biggest thing in the world, and has continued to stay huge. And I think he played a very pivotal role in giving that music a voice. And he and I became friendly because he saw me grinding with Jermaine and trying to do my own thing. And one day he sat me down and he said, I think you're really talented. Stop trying to sign things that everyone else wants and sign something that you want, that you understand.
This episode is brought to you by Surfshark. It is. Do you know that there's a cyber attack that happens, I think, every 39 seconds, if I'm correct?
Yeah. Cybercrimes increased by nearly 300% following the COVID-19 outbreak, and over 445 million cyber attacks are reported in 1 quarter of a year.
Okay, so just by using a VPN, then that protects you against possible cyber attacks, and that's what Surfshark is a VPN.
Do you know what a VPN is?
Do you?
A virtual private network.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not only good for protecting you against cyber attacks. It's also good. It's your own personal security as far as people not knowing where you are. So say you're geo-blocked. You want to watch something. I like to watch things that happen in Canada. I can use Surfshark and watch it in real time. Or I can pretend I'm on the other coast and watch something that is coming out, at a later time. I could watch it here because they don't know where I am.
Right. On like Netflix,
Right.
Hulu, Disney Plus, all the other streaming services, you could watch way more content because you could pretty much stream from
And the
anywhere.
beauty of this, I'm telling you all the good things. The beauty of Surfshark is it's risk-free because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Okay, so you can get the Surfshark VPN at surfshark.deals/Howie, Howie. That's me. Use the promo code Howie for 83% off and 3 extra months free. Right?
That's
so my name
Surfshark.
is worth it. Go ahead.
That's surfshark.deals/Howie.
Ta-da.
And here I was throwing all these college parties for predominantly white audience that loves hip hop. And I go on MySpace and I see this kid, Asher Roth. And I'm like, here's this incredibly talented rapper who's in college. And I got a hold of him. I signed him. I had another idea for an artist who would sing. I was a big Michael Jackson fan.
Right.
And Jackson 5, I was like, at the time, Atlanta, Usher asked me to go with him because I knew him from So Def and we were friends. He asked me to go with him to the NHL All-Star game in Atlanta. He was introducing the Jonas Brothers.
Right.
And I go over and I see this people freaking out about the Jonas Brothers. These kids are losing their mind, but I'm not necessarily a fan of the music. So I thought, man, there needs to be a kid who sings great angelic songs the way Michael Jackson did, because that angelic voice will make you believe in love again before you got jaded. So I had this idea of who that kid was, and that's when I saw Justin, I'm like, that's the kid.
We saw him just on YouTube.
Yeah, middle of the night. I went on to consult. I was making extra money consulting other people. I was consulting Akon on another artist, and I clicked on Justin's video by mistake, and I was like, that's the kid.
And so it's just a cold call to his mom. How do you get in touch with him?
Him and his mom have a different last name. So I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? So I Googled the companies in the background on the banners of the church contest. And I found out that one of these companies was only in a part of Ontario, Canada. And I called all the school boards of that area looking for him.
Really?
And then they called his mom saying this guy won't stop calling. She called to get rid of me. We ended up talking for an hour, and I convinced them to get on the first plane either of them had ever been on, and that's how we met.
So she just comes out, having not met you in person, just talking to you on the phone. She lands in Atlanta, and your idea for him was what? That you were going to, because that's a big ask to
Yeah,
leave your country.
yeah. And
He's
you're
a
kid.
minor. How old is he at this
It's-
time?
He's 13, about to be 14, maybe 13. Yeah.
So you meet him. They land. What do you do
I
with
pick him up in the Mercedes.
In the color?
in the purple Mercedes.
Yeah.
And he gets in and goes, cool car.
Yeah.
I take them to a hotel where he was completely obsessed with the idea that there was a mini fridge in his room. And I'm like, we're going to do this. And we we form a plan, and I start paying for his education there and get an
So
apartment.
does he goes to school?
I get him like online schooling. Like me and his mom, like we talk about it, we figure it out, and we just
Is the story that he was living? Where was he living? He was living
in a townhouse
yeah.
in Atlanta.
with it, just him and his mom.
Him and his mom. I was renting it. I bought Aaron Rent's furniture for it, and that's where.
So that's a big investment on your part, or
I
does
risked
that come
it.
from the
No,
record company?
I had enough money for 13 months. There was no record company at the time. It was just me, Asher, and Justin, and I hadn't signed them anywhere. It was just me.
Wait, you left Jermaine's?
I left Jermaine. I had enough money for 13 months once I found Asher and Justin to survive.
Right,
Before I went broke,
right.
I invested all of that money into them. And at month 11, Asher wrote I Love College, which saved the company. And then I took the commissions off of that and doubled down on Justin.
Were you on a label?
At the time, we weren't, but then I got it from 60,000 views of Justin to 60 million, which at the time made him the second biggest person on YouTube in the world. And every label said no because they didn't understand it. And then I was able to, with Usher, pull in L.A. Reid, and they gave us a label venture. But
Well, how did you connect with Usher?
because I knew Usher from So So Def, Jermaine was his producer.
And did you and Usher start a company, right?
Well, I said Usher was like, you should manage him, but we'll do a production deal. I'll be a part of it. And I was like, I want you to stamp him. He's a super soulful singer. You're the biggest R&B star of all time. No one's had more number ones in R&B more than Usher. And he really believed in Justin, heard how he sang. Justin, there's videos of it online. Justin like sang one of Usher's songs to him, and Usher was like, wow. And we were off to the races. I take a lot of pride in that I have that with a lot of my clients. You know, it's like Ariana Grande is a client, but we went through Manchester, that
Oh my God.
experience together. Like those kind of things bring you together with people. And
Were you there?
No, I was actually meeting her in London, the next city. And then so I met her, and we got her to Boca, and then we met, and then we were there for 3 days, and then we talked, and then the courage to go back to Manchester and do that show and say, look, we're going to answer this. And I was there when she met with the families one by one, which was brave and hard. And those families are incredible. That city's incredible. The fact that they showed up the way they did. But whether it be that or other people, I remember watching, what's it called? The documentary on, oh God, now I'm on a brain fart. What's it? The British singer, she passed away.
What's her
Amy
name?
Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse, yeah.
And I remember watching that, and the manager goes, it wasn't my responsibility to take care of her. It was just my responsibility to manage her career or get her on stage, I think he said.
I felt like the father was the same way. too.
But I was infuriated. I wanted to like reach through and like punch the dude in the face because I'm like, no one expects you to get everything right, but you got to try and care about people, you know? And I mean, what's it all for? You know,
Well, a lot of people would say, well, you start off this conversation that we were having today as being the entrepreneurial spirit doesn't always align with your heart, unless your heart's there for the money. So like even you talk about the Amy Winehouse documentary, I wanted to reach through the camera and strangle the father more than,
Look,
because he does have, I don't expect. My manager happens to be my best friend who I grew up with, Michael Rotenberg, who was like a brother to me. But I know that ultimately, or mostly people are, these are business deals and they're not family. Well, I said that I was bowled over by what you were doing. You were taking calls and I can't remember what the issue was at that time, but they were personal issues. And you were dealing with Justin on a very personal level that had very little to do with money or a concert that night or whatever, which kind of...
I probably, to be honest with you, I probably over the years have taken it too personal.
What do you mean?
I've had other experiences where my team had to remind me that the other person doesn't see you as family. like like you want to get in there and you want to like that's not your place. They don't see you the same way. It's like where I would be like, "Oh, we got to do this," and it's not my place. It is someone's cousin or family. It's like it's not my place to jump in there, and sometimes I've had to learn like that I can't go to that place.
Do you feel, somebody like Justin Bieber, who I think it's tough for anybody to be in the limelight, especially when the limelight is that hot, but then coming of age in that limelight. And
I think what he's had to endure and grow up in, I personally don't think I would have had the strength.
Do you feel any responsibility? Like, was
Yeah,
was it guilt?
Look, I'm 41 years old now. When we were doing that, I was 26.
Right.
When we started that. So I was just like, there's things I wish I understood and knew now, but I didn't understand certain things about myself. But he's a remarkable guy to be able to come through that, to be the most followed person on social media and the planet through his adolescence.
Right.
And then get to the other side and get to a place where, he's happy and healthy.
Yeah, well, I thought it was amazing. I think the fact that he has gotten, and I've watched him now, and I watch him, I don't know him, but I've watched him online, and he seems to have come through it.
Yeah.
And he's through the other side. He seems to have a really good relationship. I love his artistry now is so much more advanced than it was.
I think his artistry, but also like his independence. Like it's, there's a role for all of us to play when a certain point when someone's younger. But I think at this point he's a grown man. And he's really taken hold. And, when people ask me, like, what are you most proud of? I'm like, one, him coming through this and all he's achieved. But really, I respect the same way I was. Like, you get to a certain age and you're like, I got to do this. Like, I got to do this for me. I can't do this. Like, I can't be, handheld through this. Like, this has got to be me. And you got to become a leader. And I think he's stepping up to become a leader. And he's going through that process. And I think that's incredibly admirable and really cool to watch.
Who is your toughest client?
No, I'm never going to say that.
Okay.
Here's what I will say. Just like all of us, we have ups and downs in different seasons that we go through. So I have tough clients at certain times that they are the toughest at that moment. And you might ask me 6 months later and they're the easiest person to deal with.
Well, it's like being a parent.
It's family. You know what I mean? You have moments with people and you go through stuff. But it's the question isn't who's tough. I don't get too philosophical on you, but like no one at this point in my life, I've realized no one can cause me to be stressed except myself. So if someone's being tough, if someone's going through something, I'm choosing to be there. Like no amount of money can make you stay somewhere. No, like you got to choose what you want in life, what your definition of success is, what all these different things. So if you're super stressed or you're not loving something, you have to realize you're making a conscious choice to be there.
Well, I don't necessarily agree.
We can argue it. Let's do it.
I don't. I don't want to.
Like your daughter could leave right now.
Right. She can, but what all I'm saying is that your goal in life was to follow a path that you were passionate about, and whether that passion was entrepreneurialism, or finding an artist and watching somebody launch. I don't want to talk. This is not about controversies, and I don't want to talk about it, and you don't have to talk about it. But I don't think it's fair that, and I don't think you've done anything to create yourself as a target. And we just happen to be Jews, So I'm just saying, there's a thing where you didn't put yourself in that position. You just ended up in this position.
Mm-hmm. But how you react to it is your choice. That's my point. It's how you choose to react to something. Life's going to give you, you're going to make plans and life's going to show up. And then how you choose to react to something is how you choose. So if sometimes I'm staying in something, it's because I'm like, you know what? I have a sense of loyalty that I have to be there. I have to see this through because that's the way I'm built. That's my choice. If someone does something to me based on my heritage, I have a choice on how to react. Am I going to punch them in the face? Am I going to walk away? Am I going to address this differently? I get to choose how I react. And I think, when I say, oh, it's, they did this to me, or they're playing a role, but how I choose to react is how I'm going to define my destiny.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying you find yourself in positions, You're right. You're in control of how you respond to whatever.
I think we're saying the same thing because what I just said to you was you make plans and life shows up. I think that's the point you're saying, which is
right.
There's that line I always said from Batman. It said, I think he said, if you do it right long enough, even you too become the villain. And I always loved that line because I was like, you can think you're going to stay in this place all the time, but like life in general is just a constant teacher of change. Like, no, life is going to change. And we sit there and think, oh, we're doing this. But then it just shows up and something, happen. No one ever calls you and says, tomorrow you're going to hit rock bottom. Like, just you go through these processes. And I think I'm personally feeling, and I have so much more to learn, that a lot of my life now is learning how to react to that change and how I'm going to endure that change and how I'm going to be a part of that change.
Do you find that at this point in your life that you're being forced to change or to counteract your own personality more than you ever had to or more than you ever?
Yeah. I mean, you're older than me, so I want to know how this hits for you because I said this to my friend the other day. I said, I feel like the first 40 years of my life was like learning. And I feel like the second 40 seems to be unlearning. It's like,
that hits me amazingly because what I thought was important in my teens was not important in my 20s. The balance that what I was striving for, what I got upset about aren't things today that I got upset about or strive for when I was 30. And I think that life, as you said, comes at you and it keeps changing. I'm probably, the older I get, the more my shift has been toward others around me who I care about rather than myself.
Yeah.
So as opposed to these things that I'm talking about, if I became a target for something, and I could be, I'm not experiencing what you're experiencing right now, but I feel like I worry about my grandchildren and I worry about my children, and I don't really worry about myself because I feel like I can take care of myself. So my whole life has kind of shifted to others.
I feel, by the way, what you just described is how I feel. I'm confident I can handle myself. I think about how it affects everyone else. Same thing. I think what I meant by like the unlearning also, I felt like the first 40 years was learning all these things, and now I'm unlearning the things that weren't true. And when you say,
what's the biggest lesson that wasn't true that you think was?
Oh, we're gonna get super philosophical here. That I wasn't enough.
So I think that's what everybody lives by. I think that's why you buy the blue car, the blue Bentley. I think that's why people buy clothes with labels. I think that's why they post themselves on Instagram with thirst traps. I think that's why you wanted to be an entrepreneur because you wanted to do that.
I think what made me great at business, wasn't the best thing for like intimacy or friendship. And I had great friends. I was a good dude, but I was so, I had Holocaust trauma in my family. I grew up a certain way. I was always afraid of tomorrow. I was always afraid someone's going to come and take this away. And I was afraid of something that hadn't happened. And by the way, that made me really good at business because I was always able to plan ahead. It made me really good when a disaster happened because I could handle disaster really well because I was expecting it. But what it wasn't good was being present. And now that I got 3 young kids, all I'm focused on is learning how to be more and more present. And the more I kind of unlearn, the more I feel comfortable with myself and realize that like, if you like me, Howie, we become really good friends. You're not going to like me because of all these things I've achieved or things that I've done in my life. You're going to like me because it's my essence of who I am. You're going to be like, that's a good dude. And I think what I'm learning more and more is just to be comfortable with that.
Well, that leads me to, how do you know do you have a good radar up about why that person wants to be your friend or go out with you or just spend time with you?
I think we all do the best we can. I think, look, I will say I didn't get to this point by not being a little bit of a hustler. So it's easier for me to spot it in someone else if someone's trying to hustle me. But that being said, when I've gotten burned, it's always by the person next to me, not by the person who's in front of me.
Wow.
And so but my thing is, I can't fix somebody else. So the only thing I can do is just keep working on myself.
You've also, been involved in technology. You were one of the original investors in Uber.
I wasn't the original, but I was early.
You were early.
I was early.
Is that a good investment?
It was a very good investment. Yeah.
Do you get a deal in ride shares?
I don't. No.
Do you have a Lyft account?
Well, actually, I ended up becoming a Lyft investor later because John Zimmer was one of the founders of Lyft. Went to high school with my brother. He was 2 years younger than me in high school.
You've invested in Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on a list with Daniel Ek, who's the founder of Spotify, when I was 27 and he was 24 on Billboard. And it was just in Sweden. And I called everyone on the list to introduce myself because I said, we're all peers. We should know each other as we continue our careers. Daniel said, I'm coming to LA in 2 weeks. We became friends. He let me invest later on.
Wow.
Through my friend D.A. Wall.
Well, you're considered one of the top 100 most, what was the list? Influential people. So was that the list you're talking about? All the influential?
No, the list that me and Daniel were on was a 30 under 30 in Billboard.
Wow.
So I thought we're all these young people. We should know each other. Because what I found interesting is whenever I spoke to anyone older than me who was so-called powerful,
right,
I didn't see them trying to build relationships with like someone else wasn't their age far down the road. You'd ask them a question, they'd be like, "Oh, of course I can call them. I've known them 30 years." And I found that interesting that like their power came from their peer group through relationships and being there for people and
engaging,
collaborating. Exactly.
It's like social media.
So I decided like if these are the up and coming 30 under 30, I should know every single one of them, and they should know me, and they should know they can call me at any point.
Wow. So what's the next big trend in technology?
It might be what you just showed me in the other room.
The holograms, proto.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'll send you a deck.
I could see that in everyone's home and every single time people go shopping or movies. And
you've got your hand in everything. I also met through your company because we're trying to do Bobby's World, a Japanese company that you've invested in.
Korean.
Was it Korean?
Well, they're now my new partners. They bought our entertainment company.
Was that Hybe?
Hybe, yeah.
Yeah, so Hybe is the company behind BTS, isn't
Correct.
it? Or
yeah.
was?
Yes. They are.
Yeah.
And BTS, TXT, 17, many others. And Chairman Bang is my new partner. So
is that exciting?
It's incredibly exciting. He's a great guy, a real big dreamer and guy who innovated. He was a producer, actually a music producer in Korea. He was the most successful music producer in the country. Decided to start his own label. When he came to the United States, he was the most successful person in his, from Korea at making music. And a couple labels here blew him off for meetings. And he said, you know what, I'm not going to go beg them. I'm going to go back home and I'm going to build something substantial myself. And he built one of the most impressive entertainment companies in the world.
Wow. And now you are partners. Or they bought your company,
They bought our company, Ithaca. I'm now CEO of Hybe America. He won't let me say, I'm like, well, you bought us. Like, I'm happy to. And he goes, no, we're partners. That's what he likes to say. He's that kind of collaborative person. And now we have one combined company.
Yeah, and do you have a say in what's going on over there?
Yeah, I'm on the board, and he and I have our once a week phone call. And
I saw you were just over there, and is it like a talent show where they put together a new band?
We did our newest boy band out of Japan. So what you saw me in Japan was Hybe created our own TV show in Japan to create a boy band, and I was over there on the finale as one of the 3 judges to announce the boy band.
So what I was the BTS groups and things like that seem to be more of an industrial manufacturing versus somebody like Justin, who is an innate talent, as opposed to.
So I think that's always the misconception when these big boy bands and girl bands can be huge, because they are formed in that way of like bringing these people together. It's not like, the Beatles who found each other and they show up as a band. Like a corporation does tryouts and kind of puts these groups together. But my argument is always the ones that become the biggest in the world have incredible talent behind them. So if you look at One Direction, Harry Styles is now selling out all these shows. He was in One Direction.
Right.
If you look at Justin Timberlake, NSYNC, like JC Chazé is an incredible vocalist. Like if you ever watch NSYNC sing live, like these guys are incredible talent. So was Backstreet Boys. So these huge groups, they have amazing talent. And if you go look at BTS and you go to one of their shows, these are incredibly talented kids that are selling out stadiums all around the world because they're that entertaining and that good and that talented.
Well, so you just proved me wrong. You also
wait, your daughter has a question.
Jackie wants to say something. Go ahead.
But isn't it different now? Like they used to be able to you even did this with Justin. You could develop an artist and work with an artist and really, like the record companies would put a lot of money into them. Nowadays with TikTok and everyone out there trying to write songs and blowing up, they don't really develop artists anymore, right? Or even bands anymore as much. Now they're just going for whoever is already big and getting the stream.
Well, so I'll argue that too. So I think that it goes both ways, and it's almost like if you're collecting fine art, you're going to have things in art that are big for different reasons, and it goes same for music. So I'll give you an example. Andy Warhol was huge in art because he was the first person, very talented, but also first person to do this mass production art.
Right.
So first person to do it, big part of art history, huge. Then you have your Adeles in the music industry. It's like, it doesn't matter what they do. They're just that good. They could sing the phone book. Oh my God. Then you have one-hit wonders in the music industry. You have the same thing in the art world where they'll come, it'll be a huge, jump in price, and then they disappear pretty quickly. So you kind of see these within the entertainment world. What I'd say to you about development is when, you look at Justin, yes, we developed him and, he took time and he grew and we were marketing, but also like if you look at the time Usher developed, it took Usher much, much longer. He had to swim backstroke in the pool and sing to his coach. So he was ready to like sing on stage. Justin went from us on YouTube to a water park to 3 months later, Madison Square Garden. So, people, the earlier generations can make the same argument you're making. Development happens in different ways. With BTS, for example, they were in camp for a very long time being developed before you ever saw them in the world. And the reason their fans are there for them is because the company was putting up that on YouTube, the development the whole time. So the original fans got to buy into them as they went through the process.
But I was reading about this group that you just put together on the Japanese show. And in the article, they said, and the fans are called this. So they already have a fan base?
Well, the whole time they've been developed over the last year in this boot camp, the fans have been watching them. The content's been going up. They can watch them live. They can watch it. So they've been watching them. So they already have developed this fan base because kids are rooting for them. Same way when we had Justin originally doing his YouTube videos, I would always tell him, never say my name is Justin Bieber. If you watch all those original Kid Raw videos, he never once said my name is Justin Bieber and I'm going to sing. And the reason was because I wanted people to feel like they were seeing something they shouldn't.
What do you have?
I have the cinnamon spearmint flavored, the B12 and caffeine toothpicks from Zippix.
I'm also using B12 and caffeine. I have peppermint watermelon flavored, and it is delicious.
And guess what?
What?
Like always, this podcast is brought to you by
Zippix. Toothpicks.
You can always tell it's a Zippix ad when we sound like this, and you can just hear us sucking on toothpicks.
But I actually think that this is a great product because, number one, you'll save your lungs because they also have Zippix toothpicks that have nicotine, so you don't want to, you could save your lungs because smoking is bad. I used to smoke. I don't smoke anymore, but sometimes you want that nicotine fix or you want
so
that
it's to
caffeine
curb cravings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can do this anywhere. You can do this. You can't smoke in a plane. You can't, but you can put it in a toothpick anywhere you want. So I'm getting my caffeine. I'm getting my B12. I'm getting my teeth cleaned. I'm getting my oral fixation done. All this from Zippix.
Zippix toothpicks are long-lasting and available in 6 delicious flavor choices.
Delicious?
Delicious flavor choices. Plus, you can stop exposing your lungs to smoke and vape fog, like we said, because it has the nicotine ones. But we're doing the B12.
Okay, so we use it on the podcast. Now it's time to find out for yourself. So how do you do that?
You go to zippixtoothpicks.com today and use code Howie10 to save 10% off your order. That's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code Howie10. Must be 21 or older to order. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix toothpicks.
Fantastic. Holidays are coming up. People are in a quandary. What should I get? I think that this is a gift that you can get anybody. A family member, a coworker. It's good for traveling. It's good for work time. It's good for exercise time. What am I talking about?
Raycons.
Raycons, premium audio products from Raycon. You go to their website. These are, they're like earphones. They're earbuds and they're headphones and speakers. You can get them all from Raycon. And I listen to podcasts. One in particular, Howie Mandel does stuff on my Raycons. I work out with my Raycons.
You know what I like?
No.
They're pretty much like almost custom. Like they're comfortable. They fit almost directly in your ears. They're the most comfortable headphones ever.
And they're comfortable for your wallet too, because gifting them, you gotta love that they start at half the price of other premium audio brands. You realize that? I bet you didn't realize that, right?
I didn't, because they feel so good. So I would expect that they would cost more.
So Raycon makes this stressful holiday period even easier than anything else with the holiday gift guides for everyone in your life, right? So I just gave you a gifting idea. I hope you're saying thank you.
You know why else I like Raycons?
Why?
Because of the battery life.
What
I
is it?
still wear mine when I work out, and they haven't run out of batteries yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that is great. So it's got everything. It checks every box. And if you want to do it, right now go to buyraycon.com/HowieDoesStuff to get 15% off site-wide, off of all the products site-wide with the code HOLIDAY+.
And for the next month, Raycon will have a countdown to Christmas with a new pop-up flash deal for you to take advantage of every single day.
buyraycon.com/HowieDoesStuff.
Right now, you can go to buyraycon.com/HowieDoesStuff to get your 15% off site-wide with code HOLIDAY, plus free shipping. That's code HOLIDAY at buyraycon.com/HowieDoesStuff for 15% off your Raycon purchase. buyraycon.com/HowieDoesStuff. Go get it today for the holidays, for everyone you know.
Boom.
They weren't sure if he's doing it for them or his mom or an aunt is just putting this up. You know, you felt very special. You felt like this is something I'm not even supposed to be seeing.
So what are you saying at the beginning of this podcast? I shouldn't have said this is Howie Mandel.
What I'm saying is when you were a kid, I assume, and I'm not going to try and date you here too much, but I assume it was vinyl, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. When you were a kid and you discovered a group, you probably went to a vinyl store and you went around and everything else, and somebody said, oh, check that out, or you played something and you discovered something, and there was a band that you heard on vinyl and it wasn't big yet.
Right.
And because you heard it in that vinyl store before anyone else had played it on the radio, that band could be the biggest band in the world, but to you, they were yours forever.
Right. Ownership.
It was that ownership, that feeling of self-discovery. For me, it was mixtapes. You know, it was someone, a DJ would put out a mixtape and I would hear that artist before it ever hit the radio. And then when it became huge, I felt like I knew it from DJ Clue's mixtape.
How did you know all these? You're from Connecticut. Where did you get into hip hop in Connecticut?
Well, first of all, Connecticut has a lot of hip hop, but
does it?
But also
not really known for it.
No. But look, I played basketball, and my teammates. I had teammates from Harlem. I had teammates from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I had teammates from different. And the way I found out about Biggie was two guys who I actually went to basketball camp with from Harlem were like, "What do you mean you don't know Biggie?" And they gave me a mixtape. And 6 months later, Biggie's huge, and from that point on, I felt like I'm a Biggie fan.
I'm going to change course a little bit. Jackie told me about a great night at your house. Do you still play Mafia?
I love Mafia.
I know you do.
Love Mafia.
So she went there one day and it was you at your house. It was Tom Hanks, Ariana. I don't know who else was there, but she said it was the best night. They had the best time playing that game.
Now I got to bring the game night back. I haven't done it in a while, so I'm bringing it back just because of you.
Well, this is what she said before you were on. She said,
and you're coming.
Okay, you want to say something? Go ahead, say something, Jack.
I want to say it was like my favorite nights. I looked forward to those nights. It was so much fun.
I'm bringing it back for you.
So she said, and I want to know if you think this is right. Is that a good idea for a TV show, Mafia?
Oh, should we do that together?
Yeah.
I actually think Mafia would be a great TV show.
Well, what she described to me and how funny everybody was and how much you laughed and how much and celebrities like playing, I think that is a great idea.
By the way, did she tell you the Tom Hanks Ariana story?
What did you, Jackie?
Jackie, do you remember what happened?
I don't know if I remember that story. I remember laughing hysterically at Chet because Chet always killed off his parents.
Yeah, that was true. But do you remember there was one game where the way Mafia works is you're trying to figure out who is the Mafia. There's two Mafia. You have to kill them both before they kill you. And you're looking around and everyone goes to sleep. I'm not going to get into details. Basically, everyone's lying to each other.
Right.
Trying to figure this thing out.
Right.
And Tom Hanks, arguably the greatest actor of his generation, or one of the, is there. And we're down to 3 people. And Ariana fully convinces Tom, that she is his teammate. And it is time to win the game. Because they are going to kill this other person. And they find the final Mafia with one person left to go, and they're going to win. And she did it in such a convincing way that literally when Tom said, okay, we nominate, boom, you're the Mafia, and I'm the host, so I know the truth, Ariana goes, we did it, and high-fives him in celebration. And Tom is ecstatic. He's so pumped that this happened. And then I smile, and Tom goes, what's wrong? And I go, Ariana, want to tell him? And she looks at him, and she goes, you're dead. And he looked at her and he goes, "You're a genius."
That's amazing. So that's amazing. And don't you think that'd be good TV?
It would be very good TV. And it doesn't need to be these names that people know. It just,
No.
it's one of the most fun games. And it's just, everyone's like looking at each other and trying to read the room.
But it would also engage the people at home, right?
Yeah, because you're trying to figure it out with them.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think we
what you
should look
want.
into this. I never thought about it. This is
That's
great.
Jackie.
Jackie,
Jackie's
we're doing it
producer
together, the
hat.
3 of us.
Let's do it.
I want to be a producer
Done.
That's what you want to be when you
And
grow
you
up?
want me to bring the game back.
and bring the game back.
Yeah,
Both.
game night.
You're an amazing guy to talk to. There's so many topics, you're an art aficionado. And I was at your house, an old house once, and the art, it's like a
I like
fucking,
art.
oh, no shit. I saw things in your house that was just like museum pieces and great. And a kind of an eclectic range of, right, taste.
Well, I credit my mom and my mentor for that. My dad always was big on sports and Knicks and the New York Jets and everything. And my mom used to bring us into the city to bring us to museums and just make us look at things. And I didn't realize she was actually training our eyes. Then I read a book about David Geffen when I was 19. And later on in my life, I was fortunate enough to get David as a mentor. And David's one of the greatest art collectors of all time. And he gave me advice on collecting art and really compared it to also music and musicians and managing acts.
Do you collect art or do you trade art?
I collect.
You don't sell.
I try not to.
You try not to.
I mean, I don't. That'll be for my kids.
Wow.
You know, if I run out of something or something doesn't make sense for me anymore, maybe. But you know, I enjoy it.
Wow. And have you ever?
Daughter has a question.
Oh, go ahead.
But you also collect art not just because of the value in the artist, but because it means something to you, right? Like I remember every time you passed a piece of your art, you told a story about what it means to you or the story behind the artist or the story behind the art piece.
Yeah, I think that's the secret. If you're going to collect, listen, if you're doing things where it's just like, okay, to make money, you're going to get to the top of the mountain when you make enough money and you're going to be like, what the hell is this? And I'll kind of answer the question in 2 ways. Number one, I think the best way to collect is to buy things you enjoy. So I'll get offered stuff that like I know is going to make a profit and someone's like, oh, that's it. But it doesn't speak to me or I don't enjoy it. And I'm like, well, that deserves to go to a collector who's going to enjoy this piece. It's not for me. I don't want to make money off this. Like, I'm not going to sell it. Like, I want to live with it. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'll tell you is, it goes back to the whole money conversation. During COVID, I became friends with Jeff Bezos. And I got to ask him, I've told this story many times before, but I like saying it because I feel like
during COVID, my wife ordered a lot of things on Amazon during COVID and didn't become friends. How much did you order?
Well, but my point is that probably not as much as your wife, to be honest. But my thing is like there's someone who I think cares deeply about people and is a really, really, really good guy who actually provided more jobs during COVID than any individual, who also changed minimum wage when the government wouldn't for all his employees. And I feel like doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And I asked him, I was like, hey, Jeff, you could have anything you want from a commercial standpoint. What do you want? And his answer, I called the cheat code. He literally said to me, I want to evolve. I want to be better at intimacy. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better friend. Like I want to evolve as a human being. He goes, this is my normal now. I'm having a human experience that's just like everyone else, but this is my normal. And I want to evolve as a person. And I thought to myself, I don't need $200 billion to do that. So I really wanted, like, I always think about that conversation. I'm like, each one of us can work on evolving as a person, working on ourselves. Why wait till we're at that point?
Do you feel that you've made enough money? Do you chase money anymore?
No, I don't. I feel like I had a number. I feel like this is also important. Like I set out a number when I was in college. So I met a guy who owned a car dealership in Atlanta.
Yeah.
His name was Mike Dominicone.
Right.
And I asked him, how much money do you need to live your life? And he gave me a number. And that was my number.
I'm not asking how much you have. I'm asking what was the number that you set out. Like that what was the number that you put
Well, I
in your
think
head?
some people might hear that number and say, oh, that isn't cheap, but each of us define our own number. That's what I want to say. Everyone should have their own number. My thing was, I thought when I got to that number, I'd never care about money. Like I would never work, or that was my number. And if I doubled that number, it's F you, like we're done forever. I got that number when I was 27. And my career took off, things happened. I was 27 years old, and I always think about the fact that like I got to that point and nothing changed. The only thing that changed is I got really good advice that now you have enough money to implement more of the things that actually make you happy. Spending time with friends at a game night, hanging out. I took my kid to a basketball game last night, and my friends were laughing at me that like after he went to bed, I like started crying because I was so emotional about taking my son to his first basketball game. And it's those things that you can implement more of, because money can be an avenue to freedom or it could lock you up. And I always tell myself, I was unlocked at 27. I don't have to be like this anymore. And I'm working on that more and more and more, because sometimes the business and the entrepreneurial spirit, it sucks you in and you have to like reset and remember like you're good, you're safe, you're fine. Like you can go do those things. And I think the older I get, exactly what you described, I just want to spend more time with my friends and my family. And I'm fortunate enough that like the friends I spend the most time with are two of my friends since I was 11 years old.
Real friends.
Yeah.
Not.
And I have real friends who I met later in life, but I got
but they're not there. They're definitely not there because of who you are and what you've achieved. They're there just because of you, because they were there before.
And if anything, I have a text chain with a bunch of guys I grew up playing basketball with. And two of the guys on the text chain are these two friends I'm talking about. And then there's three more on the text chain. I have never been made fun of more in my life than what goes on that text chain. And no text chain makes me happier than that text chain.
Because it comes from love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you have a good sense of humor. You have more than a good sense of humor. You just have a good sense. And that Jeff Bezos line is something that just hit me really hard. Because I just think that is, tomorrow you have to be different than you were today. Because tomorrow you have the experiences that you had today. And if your experiences don't change you, then you're not moving. You're not moving. And life is about moving. And I could tell you, from somebody my age, and you probably feel it already at 41, it seems like yesterday you were 27.
Yeah.
And those increments of
feels like yesterday I was 19.
Right. So you can imagine, because, when you were 20, each year was a 20th of your year. When you're 40, each year is a 40th of your year. So those increments stack up and just seem like closer. And as a guy who's 67, it seems like yesterday.
He looks good. Your dad looks good.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll hold for an applause.
I have a question really fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are known as having great business sense. You've done really well. I'd imagine that people turn to you and look to you for advice when it comes to business. You said earlier that you put like everything into Justin and it ended up working out for you. Is that the same advice you would give? That's scary. Is that the same advice you would give to kids or people that are listening to you for business advice? If you really believe in something, to put everything in, to go all in, is that something you would do again?
It's so funny you say this. So I saw this Instagram post yesterday, and it was talking about how it was one of these like make money Instagram posts by probably someone who shouldn't be giving advice. And they were talking about Elon Musk, and they were like, Elon Musk was part of the PayPal thing, and he took all of the money from PayPal and put this much into SpaceX, this much into Tesla, this much into I think it was another company. I forgot which one it was.
Twitter.
Well, not it was early, and
Okay.
they said he literally took the $100 million he made from PayPal, put it all into these businesses to the point where he had to stay at friends' houses because he couldn't afford rent, because he put everything into it. And that's how you make money. Because if he had done savings, he would have lost 60% to the recession or like whatever it was talking about. It was like, you got to go all in on your dreams. Yes and no. Like, you have to assess where you are in your life and what you're willing to handle. And every situation is completely, completely different. Like, I went all in because I was willing to starve. I didn't have kids at the time. I didn't have anyone relying
You're
on
a
me.
20-year-old kid.
Yeah.
What is all in for you is not all in for me.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying, like, when people say, is that your advice to go all in? Now, at the point I'm at now, I'm very happy that I'm very diversified. And when I got money, I started diversifying a lot. So like, one thing can't knock me down, but it depends on where you are in your journey. And if you're going to take this blanket advice that there's only one way to do it, well, then you're not really paying attention, because if you talk to every entrepreneur, every single one of them has a different story. The only common factor is self-belief. The only common factor between all the stories is that they refused, that whatever plan they committed to, they refused to listen to the status quo that wasn't going to work. Like, to them, the rational was irrational. You know, the extraordinary was the ordinary. Like, it's the only way to do it. And I think that makes sense to me. But this idea of like, would you tell someone they got to go all in on their dream? I don't know where they are in their dream.
Have you done a TED Talk?
No.
You should. You should. No, I think that what you have to say is not only interesting, but it's also important. And it's important not about being.
Well, thank you, by the way.
But I've learned a lot today, and I think it's amazing, you know, and it started from not finishing college. You're probably one of the brightest people I've ever talked to, and your philosophies, I think, are in line with what most people should be in line with. And it's amazing, and your parents should be incredibly proud that you diverted from the.
They're proud now. You know what's funny? I appreciate you saying that. And this is the other advice I'd give for anyone listening who's heading in this path. The other thing that, you know, Bezos has talked about is, and he's talked to me about, is you have to be okay with being incredibly misunderstood. You know, if you're going to do a path that is unlike other paths, if you're going to set your own path, you have to be okay along that journey being incredibly misunderstood and mischaracterized. And I've had that experience. I plan on having that experience in years to come. And just knowing who you are and having your own self-belief and self-worth is all you can really have, because I appreciate you saying that, I have to be okay with the next person not saying that, and I can't be defined by either of you.
Right. But it's kind of like the same, Bezos is telling you the same thing as your first mentor told you in that club where he said, you're trying to buy into music that you think is going to sell.
Correct.
Why don't you buy into music that you like?
Yeah.
And just because you like it doesn't mean it'll sell, but you have a better chance. That's the path of your own passion.
I can describe it better.
Go ahead. You don't like the way I described
No,
it?
I think you nailed it. You nailed it. The only difference in my journey is that along that way, you asked me a while ago, you said, what is that lie? And I said that I'm not enough. That's the thing that I've been working on and getting to a really good place. And I think for so long, I didn't feel like I was enough. So I built Scooter. I built this character to be successful and all the things that I thought define success and define happiness. And I was building this life for this idea that if I'm that, if I achieve these things, if I'm that, and the outside world tells me I'm that, then I'm enough. And then life shows up and it doesn't allow you to live your plan on the perfect pedestal that you plan for yourself. And things go awry and things go wrong. And, you know, people show up differently than you expect. You show up differently than you expect. Like, just things happen. And then you get to a place where you have a conscious choice. And that's where I said, I can't be defined by anything. I have to be defined by myself, because I had to realize that, like, Scott, my real name, that little kid, created that persona. Created it because that's what he thought it was. And the truth was, that text chain I just talked to you about with my buddies, they call me Scott. They don't give a crap what I created in the world and what defines me and what anything else. And that's why when Jeff said you have to be okay being misunderstood, what I think he was trying to tell me was, this has to be for you and the people that you love, because this is only your journey. And I now have gotten to a place where, like, having all these things happen and then certain aspects of my life not going the way that I wanted, it felt like everything was crashing because everything had to be perfect. And over the last 3 years, I've really done all this work to understand it had to be imperfect for me to realize that it was never about that. That it was always about, we're out here to enjoy the journey. One of my favorite poems is Ithaca by Kafafi. It's actually why I named my company Ithaca. And it's this idea of you're traveling through the Greek islands and all the things you see on your way to the island of Ithaca. When you find Ithaca, it's not going to be what you thought. And if you find her poor, she did not fool you, because it was never about the destination. It was always about the journey. And one of the things I admire about you, because we talked about Bobby's World, I first discovered you in my childhood giving me my favorite shows, like one of my favorite shows, Bobby's World. And then when I got older and I saw your comedy and I saw all these different things that you did and I discovered all these things, I saw all these layers to this person far beyond Bobby's World. And then I got to see you as a father becoming friends with your daughter. And it was interesting because you see all these layers, but at the end of the day, why I enjoy talking to you, why I always enjoy seeing you, has nothing to do with Bobby's World or the fact that, you know, the Caesar's, you know, couch is in the other room or all these different things. I just think you're a good guy. And I think
I think you're a good guy.
Yeah,
Are you happy?
I think I am now. Yeah, I actually think I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I am. And I think I go through phases, but I think I really am. I think you get this because your daughter's here. I've never felt more fulfilled than being a dad.
Oh, I tell anybody who is, and nothing changes your life more than being, and nothing teaches you more about life.
Yeah.
And everything else you do in life. Nothing informs you more than loving and being responsible for another human being.
Yeah.
That's more responsibility and that's more passion than you will have for any business, any dollar, any experience you have in life. I can't thank you enough. I know how busy you are, and this means a lot to me that you showed up. And you're also, listen, all the work you do, I was in reading some of the facts that you and your clients, but through you, have done more Make-A-Wish Foundation events than any other we do it a lot on AGT, and I've done it a lot and showed up, but you are responsible for most of those. I know you work with cancer, you work with politics, you really are blazing a path on so many different levels in technology, in business, in music, in pop culture, and just in humanity. So you really, and I say this as an older person looking at you and somebody who I met through my kids, I'm so proud of you adjacently.
Thank you.
That I even know you and get to talk to you. I hope we get to do Bobby's World. I hope it comes to fruition.
Me too. And we're going to do Mafia.
And I think Mafia is a great idea. That's Jackie's idea, and she wants to produce it with us. But you're just such a joy and so important. I think that this episode of Howie Mandel Does Stuff is really important if you're listening to it now or watching it now for people to share.
Well,
Not because I need, and I know I'd like more subscribers, and I'd love you to comment and do that. But I just think that this is a lot of the things that you're experiencing and that you've talked about, I think should be heard by even a much larger audience than I have right here. So I'm asking listeners and watchers to just share this episode more than I've asked you to share any other episode. I don't think I've asked you to share any other episode. So
I appreciate that. And I will say, like I said, when I first met you, I was a fan, so I was super excited, but also a testament to you because what you said about kids and what you learned. You raised a really good one who's here with us.
1 out of 3 isn't bad.
But I thought that was the coolest thing about meeting you was seeing how your daughter and your son-in-law spoke about you.
Right. And, this is my son producing this. My son, Alex, look in the window. That's my son right there, who I'm actually equally as proud of. That's Jackie's brother is right there. So
well,
he
Alex,
built it.
I'll ask you afterwards if you like him, and then we'll really know the truth. But
Alex, do you like me? Alex? He's not even answering. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, most of the time.
Wait, your daughter wants to say something else. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm the favorite.
Oh, you are?
But I'm the favorite. Yeah.
Well, Alex, come back. Is your sister the favorite?
She made them grandparents.
Oh, yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, that she wins.
Yeah, you can
You can do it too, Alex.
explain it to your brother how it's done.
Well, thanks for having me.
This is the best. This has been Scooter Braun, and this is Howie Mandel Does Stuff. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Cool.
That was great. You're amazing.
Oh, thanks,
you really
man.
are.
It was
you
great.
should do, I don't know if you're